Ethan Walker thought he could bury the past. 12 years of silence, 12 years of running from the family he abandoned. But when he rolled back into that small coastal town and locked eyes with the son who looked exactly like him, everything he'd been hiding from came crashing down like a tidal wave. Maya had never lied. She'd told their boy the truth about his father from day one. But forgiveness and trust, those were currencies Ethan had long since spent. Now he had one chance to prove he'd changed, one chance to rebuild what he'd shattered. But old patterns die hard, and when his career came calling with one final temptation, Ethan had to choose, walk away again, or fight for the love he never stopped wanting. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me, do people really deserve second chances, or are some mistakes just too big to forgive? The wind off the Atlantic was cooler than Ethan remembered. He rolled down the window of his truck and let the salt air fill his lungs as he crossed the bridge into Morehead City. The town looked smaller somehow, though nothing had really changed. Same weathered storefronts, same fishing boats bobbing in the harbor, same stretch of beach where he'd spent countless summers as a kid. He hadn't been back in 12 years. Ethan gripped the steering wheel tighter and told himself this was just another job, a construction project, nothing more. He'd sketch some plans, oversee the build, and head back to Charlotte before fall. Clean, simple, professional. But as the truck rolled past familiar streets, the lie crumbled. He knew why he'd said yes to this project when a dozen others paid better. He knew what he was hoping to find here, even if he couldn't admit it out loud. Or rather, who? The memory surfaced before he could stop it. Maya, 20 years old, laughing as she painted his face with watercolors on the beach, her hair wild in the wind, her smile brighter than the sun. They'd been so young, so sure they could make it work despite his mother's disapproval, despite the whispers in town, despite everything, and then he'd ruined it all. Ethan pulled into the parking lot of his motel and cut the engine. He sat there for a long moment, staring at nothing. Regret was a bitter companion. It had followed him for over a decade, whispering in the quiet moments that he'd made the biggest mistake of his life when he'd walked away from her. When he'd walked away from them, his phone buzzed, a text from his project manager about tomorrow's meeting. Ethan replied quickly and climbed out of the truck. The motel was nothing special, peeling paint and a flickering neon sign, but it would do. He wasn't here for comfort. That night, sleep came slowly. When it finally did, he dreamed of dark eyes and a laugh he'd never quite forgotten. Morning arrived with bright sunshine and the cry of seagulls. Ethan dressed in his usual work clothes, jeans, a button-down, boots, and headed to the construction site to meet the investors. The project was straightforward, a small community center near the waterfront. Nothing fancy, but the town needed it, and the work would keep him busy for the next few months. After the meeting wrapped up, Ethan found himself with a few free hours. He should have gone back to the motel to review blueprints. Instead, his feet carried him downtown, toward the ocean. The cafe sat right on the edge of the harbor, its wide windows facing the water. Ethan had passed it 100 times as a teenager. He pushed open the door and was greeted by the smell of fresh coffee and baked goods. A handful of customers sat scattered throughout the small space, and soft music played from somewhere overhead. He ordered a black coffee and a blueberry muffin, then chose a table by the window. Outside, boats swayed gently in their slips. A few tourists wandered the boardwalk. Everything felt slow here, peaceful, like time moved differently in Morehead City. Ethan was halfway through his muffin when the door chimed again. He glanced up out of habit, and his entire world stopped. Maya stood in the doorway, holding the hand of a teenage boy. She looked almost exactly as he remembered, a little older maybe, with the same warm brown skin and natural hair pulled back in a loose bun. She wore a simple yellow sundress and sandals. She was laughing at something the boy had said. Then her eyes swept the cafe. When they landed on Ethan, her smile faltered. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. The cafe noise faded into a dull hum. Ethan's coffee cup hovered halfway to his lips. His heart hammered against his ribs. Maya said something to the boy, who nodded and headed toward the counter. She walked slowly across the cafe, her expression unreadable. "Ethan," she said softly when she reached his table. "Maya." His voice came out rougher than he intended. He set down his cup before he dropped it. I didn't know you still lived here. I never left." She crossed her arms, not unkindly, but like she was holding herself together. "What are you doing back?" "Work. A project downtown." He gestured vaguely toward the harbor. "I'm here for a few months." Maya nodded slowly. Her gaze flickered to the window, then back to him. "That's Jordan," she said. nodding toward the counter where the boy was ordering. My son. Ethan's breath caught. He'd known, of course. In the abstract, Maya had been 2 months pregnant when they divorced. He'd signed the papers and left town, too young and too scared to face what he'd done, too selfish to stay. But knowing and seeing were different things. Jordan was tall and lean, maybe 17, with light brown skin and curly hair that fell across his forehead. He wore a faded band t-shirt and jeans. When he turned to scan the cafe for his mother, Ethan saw his own face staring back at him. The shape of the jaw, the slope of the nose, the way he tilted his head when he was thinking. It was like looking into a mirror from 15 years ago. Ethan's throat tightened. He looks like you, Maya finished quietly. Yeah, he does. Jordan spotted them and walked over, carrying 2 iced coffees. Up close, the resemblance was even more striking. Ethan felt something crack open in his chest, a grief so sharp it stole his breath. Jordan, Maya said gently, this is Ethan Walker. The boy's eyes widened slightly. He glanced between them and Ethan saw understanding dawn on his face. Jordan knew. Somehow he already knew. Your father, Maya added, her voice steady. Jordan stood very still. Then he nodded once. Yeah, he said. I figured. Ethan swallowed hard. Hi. Hi. Jordan's voice was cautious but not hostile. He handed Maya one of the coffees and shifted his weight. I've seen pictures. Pictures. Ethan looked at Maya. She met his gaze evenly. I never hid anything from him. He's always known who you are. The words hit Ethan like a punch. He'd spent years imagining that Maya had erased him from their lives, that she'd told Jordan he was dead or gone or just didn't care. He'd convinced himself it was easier that way, that she'd moved on and forgotten him completely. But she hadn't. She'd told their son the truth. Ethan blinked rapidly and looked down at his hands. I don't know what to say. Maya hesitated, then pulled out the chair across from him. Jordan sat beside her, still watching Ethan with quiet curiosity. You don't have to say anything, Maya said, but if you want to talk, we can sit for a minute. Ethan nodded, unable to trust his voice. The 3 of them sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the waves lapped gently against the docks. A seagull cried overhead. The cafe hummed with quiet conversation. Finally, Ethan forced himself to speak. I'm sorry, he said, looking at Jordan. I know that doesn't mean much, but I'm sorry I wasn't there. Jordan took a sip of his coffee and shrugged. Mom said you were young, that you weren't ready. I wasn't, Ethan admitted. But that's not an excuse. Maya's expression softened slightly. We're not here to make you feel guilty, Ethan. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? She tilted her head, considering him. Jordan's old enough to make his own choices now. If he wants to know you, that's up to him. Ethan looked at the boy, his son, and felt a desperate hope flicker to life. Would you? Want to know me, I mean? Jordan was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Yeah, I think so. The tension in Ethan's chest loosened just a fraction. Thank you. Maya checked her watch and stood. We should go. I've got a class to teach this afternoon. She glanced at Ethan. If you're serious about this, we can meet again. Tomorrow, maybe. I'm serious, Ethan said quickly. I'm not going anywhere. Her eyes searched his face, looking for something. Okay, she said finally. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock, same place. Jordan stood and gave Ethan a small nod. See you. See you, Ethan echoed. He watched them leave, his heart pounding. When the door closed behind them, he dropped his head into his hands and let out a shaky breath. He had a son who looked like him, who knew his name, who was willing to give him a chance. Ethan didn't deserve it. He knew that. But he'd be damned if he wasted it. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. He ordered coffee and sat at the same table by the window, his knee bouncing nervously under the table. At exactly 10 o'clock, Jordan walked in alone. Ethan stood quickly. Hey. Jordan slid into the chair across from him. Mom had to set up for an art show. She said it's okay if we talk without her. Oh, okay. Ethan sat back down, suddenly unsure what to say. Do you want something? Coffee? Food? I'm good. Jordan leaned back in his chair and studied Ethan with the same quiet intensity Maya used to have. So, you're an architect? Yeah, I design buildings, mostly commercial stuff, some residential. Cool, Jordan nodded. I like to draw, not buildings though, more like sketches, people, landscapes. Your mom was always good at art, Ethan said. I remember she used to paint all the time. She still does. She teaches art at the high school. Jordan paused. I'm in her class, actually. It's kind of weird. Ethan smiled faintly. I bet. They lapsed into silence. Ethan searched for something to say, anything, but his mind was blank. How did you talk to the kid you'd abandoned? Where did you even start? Can I ask you something? Jordan said suddenly. Anything. Why didn't you come back? Before now, I mean. The question was direct, but not cruel. Jordan's eyes held genuine curiosity, and maybe a little hurt. Ethan exhaled slowly. I was scared, he admitted. I thought your mum hated me. I thought you'd hate me too. And I figured it was easier to stay away than to show up and make things worse. That's dumb. Ethan blinked. What? That's a dumb reason, Jordan said flatly. You could have just asked. Mom would have told you the truth. You're right, Ethan said. It was dumb and cowardly. I spent so long convincing myself I was doing the right thing that I didn't realize I was just running away. Jordan considered this. Then he shrugged. At least you're here now. Yeah, Ethan said quietly. At least I'm here now. They talked for another hour. The conversation was awkward at first, full of long pauses and half-finished sentences, but slowly things began to ease. Jordan told him about school, about his friends, about the boat-building class he was taking. Ethan shared stories about his work, about the cities he'd lived in, about the projects he'd designed. By the time they left the cafe, Ethan felt lighter than he had in years. Would you want to see the site where I'm working? He asked as they stepped outside. It's not far, and it's kind of cool if you're into that sort of thing. Jordan hesitated, then nodded. Sure. They walked together along the harbor, the sun warm on their faces. Ethan pointed out different buildings, explaining their design and history. Jordan listened, asking questions now and then, and Ethan realized with a pang how much he'd missed. 17 years of birthdays, school plays, scraped knees, late-night talks. All gone, but maybe, just maybe, he could still make things right. When they reached the construction site, Jordan's eyes lit up. The skeletal frame of the community center rose against the blue sky, raw and unfinished, but full of potential. This is yours? Jordan asked. I designed it, Ethan said. A team is building it, but yeah, it's mine. Jordan walked closer, craning his neck to study the structure. It's pretty cool. You think so? Yeah. Jordan turned back to him. Do you have the plans, like the drawings? In my truck. Ethan jogged over and grabbed the rolled blueprints from the front seat. He spread them out on the hood, and Jordan leaned in to look. For the next 20 minutes, they talked about angles and measurements, about how a building went from an idea to reality. Jordan asked smart questions, and Ethan answered them, feeling a swell of pride he hadn't expected. This was his son, his brilliant, thoughtful, creative son. Jordan. They both turned. Maya stood at the edge of the site, her hand shading her eyes. She wore paint-stained jeans and a loose t-shirt, and her hair was tied back in a messy knot. Mom, Jordan waved. Come check this out. Maya walked over slowly, her gaze flicking between them. When she reached the truck, Ethan saw something in her expression. Relief, maybe. Or hope. He's showing me the blueprints, Jordan said. This place is going to be awesome when it's done. Maya smiled at her son, then glanced at Ethan. You always did love your work. Yeah, Ethan said softly. But I loved other things more. I just didn't realize it until it was too late. The air between them shifted. Maya's smile faded, and for a moment, Ethan saw the girl he'd fallen in love with all those years ago. The girl he'd hurt. The girl he'd never stopped thinking about. Jordan, Maya said, her voice gentle, why don't you head to the car? I'll be right there. Jordan nodded and jogged off, leaving them alone. Maya crossed her arms and looked at Ethan. He likes you. I like him too, Ethan said. He's incredible, Maya. You did an amazing job raising him. Thank you. She shifted her weight. But don't get ahead of yourself, okay? He's 17. He's old enough to remember what distance feels like. I know, Ethan said. And I'm not going to mess this up. I promise. Maya studied him for a long moment. Promises are easy, Ethan. It's keeping them that matters. I'll keep it, he said firmly. I'm not leaving this time. She didn't reply. She just nodded once, then turned and walked back toward the car. Ethan watched her go, his heart heavy and hopeful all at once. He'd spent 12 years running from his mistakes. Now it was time to face them. Over the next few days, Ethan and Jordan fell into a tentative routine. They met for coffee in the mornings, sometimes talking for hours, sometimes sitting in comfortable silence. Ethan learned that Jordan loved music, especially old rock bands, that he was terrible at math but could sketch a perfect portrait in under an hour, that he wanted to study design in college, maybe architecture, maybe something else. And every day Ethan felt the weight of his absence grow heavier. One evening Maya invited him to dinner. "It's nothing fancy," she said over the phone. "Just spaghetti, but Jordan thought it might be nice, to have a meal together." "I'd love that," Ethan said, trying to keep the emotion out of his voice. 6 o'clock, Maya said. "Don't be late." "I won't." He arrived at 5:55, holding a bottle of wine and a bouquet of daisies he'd picked up from the grocery store. Maya's house was small and cozy, with a bright blue door and a garden full of wildflowers. It looked exactly like the kind of place she'd always dreamed of. She opened the door before he could knock. "Daisies," she said, surprised. "You remembered?" "Of course I did." She took the flowers and gestured him inside. "Come on, Jordan's in the kitchen." The house smelled like garlic and tomato sauce. Jordan stood at the stove, stirring a pot, and he grinned when he saw Ethan. "Hey, Mum's making me do all the work." "Someone has to," Maya teased. She put the daisies in a vase and set them on the table. "Ethan, you want something to drink? Water? Wine?" "Water's fine." They ate at the small kitchen table, passing bread and salad, and laughing at Jordan's stories about his art class. The conversation flowed easily, and for a little while, Ethan let himself imagine that this was normal, that this was his life, that he hadn't missed 12 years. After dinner, Jordan excused himself to finish homework, leaving Ethan and Maya alone. "Thank you," Ethan said quietly, "for tonight, for all of this." Maya wiped down the counter and didn't look at him. "It's not just for you. Jordan needed this too." "I know." Ethan stood and moved closer. "But still, thank you." She turned to face him, and their eyes met. For a moment, the years fell away, and Ethan saw the girl he'd loved so fiercely, it scared him. "I'm not the same person I was," he said. "I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve this chance, but I'm trying, Maya. I swear I'm trying." Her expression softened. "I can see that." They stood there in the quiet kitchen, the distance between them feeling both vast and impossibly small. Finally, Maya sighed. "Just don't hurt him, Ethan. Whatever happens between us, don't hurt him." "I won't," Ethan promised. "Not again." She nodded, then walked him to the door. As Ethan stepped outside into the cool night air, she called after him. "Ethan?" He turned. "I'm glad you came back." He smiled, his heart full. "So am I." The weeks that followed felt like a slow thaw after a long winter. Ethan began to weave himself into the fabric of Jordan and Maya's lives, careful not to push too hard, terrified of breaking the fragile trust they were building. He showed up when he said he would. He listened more than he talked. He learned to read the small signs, when Jordan needed space, when Maya was holding back something she wanted to say. It wasn't perfect. There were awkward silences and moments when the weight of lost time pressed down on all of them. But there were good moments too, moments that made Ethan believe he might actually get this right. One Saturday morning, Jordan called him. "Hey, so I have this project for school," Jordan said. "We're supposed to design a tiny house, like a whole floor plan and everything, and I'm kind of stuck." "You want help?" Ethan asked, already grabbing his keys. "If you're not busy." "I'm never too busy for you." 20 minutes later, Ethan sat at Maya's kitchen table with Jordan, surrounded by graph paper and pencils and measuring tools. Maya worked in the corner, grading papers with her reading glasses perched on her nose. "Okay," Ethan said, studying Jordan's rough sketches. "So you want an open floor plan with a sleeping loft?" "Yeah, but I can't figure out where to put the bathroom without making everything feel cramped." Ethan grabbed a fresh sheet of paper. "Let me show you something." They spent the next 2 hours working through the design together. Ethan explained load-bearing walls and efficient use of space. Jordan asked questions and sketched new ideas, his face lighting up when something clicked. Maya watched them from across the room, and when Ethan glanced over, she was smiling. "What?" he asked. "Nothing," she said. "You're just good with him. He makes it easy." Jordan looked up from his drawing. "Are you guys getting all sappy over there?" "Maybe a little," Maya admitted. "Gross," Jordan said, but he was grinning. When the design was finished, Jordan held it up proudly. "This is awesome. Thanks, Ethan." "Any time, kid." The word slipped out before Ethan could stop it. Jordan's smile faltered for just a second, and Ethan's stomach dropped. Too familiar. Too soon. But then Jordan nodded. "Cool. Hey, are you coming to my game next week?" "Your game?" "Basketball. I'm not great or anything, but Mom always comes. You could too if you want." Ethan's throat tightened. "I'd love to." "Awesome." Jordan stood and stretched. "I'm going to go work on this in my room. Thanks again." When he was gone, Maya set down her pen and looked at Ethan. "That was really nice, what you did." "It was nothing." "No," she said firmly. "It wasn't nothing. He's happy, Ethan. I haven't seen him this happy in a long time. Ethan wanted to say something meaningful, something that captured the gratitude and hope swelling in his chest, but all he could manage was, "I'm happy too." Maya's expression softened. She stood and poured 2 cups of coffee, then sat down across from him at the table. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything. Why now? Why did you finally come back?" Ethan wrapped his hands around the warm mug and considered the question. He could lie, make it sound like a coincidence. But Maya deserved better than that. "I've been thinking about coming back for years," he said quietly, "but I kept finding excuses not to. Work, distance, fear. Then my therapist asked me a question that stuck with me." "What question?" "She asked what I'd regret most if I died tomorrow." Ethan met Maya's eyes, and the answer was obvious. "I'd regret not knowing my son, not trying to make things right with you, not fighting for the family I walked away from." Maya was silent for a moment. Then she said, "You saw a therapist?" "Yeah, for about 3 years now." "That's good, Ethan, really good." "I had to," he said honestly. "I was a mess after we split. I threw myself into work, trying to fill the hole I'd made in my own life, but it didn't work. Nothing worked." He paused. "I hurt you, Maya. I hurt our son, and I had to figure out why I did that so I'd never do it again." Maya's eyes glistened. She looked down at her coffee. "I was angry at you for a long time, but I was never bitter. I didn't want Jordan to grow up hating his father." "Why not?" Ethan asked. "I would have understood if you did." "Because hate would have hurt him more than it hurt you," she said simply. "I told him the truth, that you were young and scared, that sometimes people make mistakes, that it didn't mean you didn't matter." "You're incredible," Ethan said. "You know that?" She smiled faintly. "I'm just a mom trying to do right by her kid." They sat in comfortable silence, drinking their coffee. Outside, the afternoon sun filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows across the yard. "Ethan," Maya said after a while. "Yeah? I'm glad you're here, but I need you to understand something." His chest tightened. "Okay. Jordan is opening up to you, and that's beautiful, but he's also 17. He's at an age where trust is fragile. If you let him down now, it'll hurt worse than if you'd never come back at all." "I know," Ethan said. "I'm not going to let him down." "You say that," Maya said gently, "but life happens, work happens. You've always been ambitious, Ethan. That's not a bad thing, but it's what pulled you away before. I'm different now." "Are you?" She wasn't being cruel, just honest. "Because I see you checking your phone during dinner. I see you taking calls from your firm. I see the same patterns starting to show." Ethan's jaw tightened. She was right. He'd been trying to balance everything. The construction project, his firm back in Charlotte, his time with Jordan and Maya, but the edges were starting to fray. "I'll do better," he said. Maya reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I hope so, because we're counting on you now. Both of us." The following week, Ethan attended Jordan's basketball game. The high school gym was packed with parents and students, the air thick with the smell of popcorn and floor wax. Ethan found Maya in the bleachers and sat beside her. "He's number 12, she said, pointing to the court. Ethan spotted Jordan warming up with his team. He wasn't the tallest player, but he moved with confidence, dribbling and passing with easy grace. "He's good," Ethan said, surprised. "He's been playing since middle school." When the game started, Ethan found himself leaning forward, watching every move. Jordan didn't score much, but he played smart defense and set up his teammates with good passes. Every time he touched the ball, Ethan's heart raced. "Go, Jordan!" Maya shouted, cupping her hands around her mouth. Ethan joined in. "Let's go, 12!" Jordan glanced up at them during a timeout, and when he saw Ethan sitting beside his mum, his face broke into a wide smile. They won by 6 points. Afterward, Jordan jogged over, sweaty and grinning. "Did you see that assist in the third quarter?" he asked. "I saw it," Ethan said. "That was incredible. Mom's been teaching me to think 2 steps ahead, like chess." Maya laughed. "I taught you chess. You applied it to basketball on your own." The 3 of them walked out to the parking lot together. Jordan was buzzing with energy, replaying every moment of the game. Maya smiled and nodded, adding commentary here and there, and Ethan just listened, soaking it all in. This was what he'd been missing. "Hey," Jordan said as they reached Maya's car, "a bunch of us are getting pizza. You guys want to come?" Ethan glanced at Maya, uncertain. "It's up to you," she said. "I'd love to," Ethan said, "if that's okay." "Yeah, it's cool," Jordan said. "I told my friends you were around. They think it's kinda weird, but in a good way." At the pizza place, Ethan met Jordan's friends, a loud, laughing group of teenagers who treated Jordan like family. They asked Ethan polite questions about architecture and Charlotte, and one girl named Simone insisted on showing him pictures of a house she wanted to build someday. "That's ambitious," Ethan said, impressed. "Jordan said you designed that community center downtown," Simone said. "That's way more ambitious." Jordan grinned. "See? I told you he was cool." Later, when they were back in the parking lot, Maya walked Ethan to his truck. "Thank you for coming tonight," she said. "It meant a lot to Jordan. It meant a lot to me, too." She leaned against the truck and looked up at the stars. "You're doing good, Ethan. I just want you to know that. I'm trying." "I know." She turned to face him. "But I also know how demanding your job can be, and I'm worried—" Before she could finish, Ethan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and winced. His project manager in Charlotte. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should—" "Take it," Maya said quietly. "I'll see you later." She walked back to her car and Ethan answered the call. "Walker," his boss said, his voice clipped. "We need to talk." The conversation didn't go well. The firm was expanding, and they wanted Ethan back in Charlotte within the month to lead a major project. A hospital complex, high profile, big money. The kind of opportunity most architects dreamed about. "I can't," Ethan said, pacing his motel room. "I'm in the middle of a project here." "Hand it off to someone else," his boss said. "This is bigger, Ethan. This is your career. I can't just leave." "Why not? You've done it before." The words stung. Ethan ran a hand through his hair and stared out the window at the dark ocean. "I need time to think," he said finally. "You've got 2 days. After that, we're offering it to Stevens." The line went dead. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed and dropped his head into his hands. This was exactly what Maya had warned him about. The pull of ambition. The lure of something bigger and better. But how could he walk away now? How could he leave Jordan when they were just starting to build something real? He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he met Jordan at the construction site as planned. They were going to work on a small design project together, a bench for Maya's art studio. But Ethan's mind was elsewhere, distracted and heavy. "You okay?" Jordan asked, noticing. "Yeah, just tired." They worked in silence for a while, cutting wood and measuring angles, but Jordan kept glancing at him, his brow furrowed. "Something's wrong," Jordan said finally. "You're acting weird." Ethan set down his tools and sighed. "It's work stuff, nothing for you to worry about." "Is it bad?" "It's complicated." Jordan crossed his arms. "Does it have to do with leaving?" Ethan froze. "What?" "I heard you on the phone last night, in the parking lot." Jordan's voice was calm, but his eyes were guarded. "Are you going back to Charlotte?" "I don't know yet," Ethan said honestly. "They want me to, but I haven't decided." "But you're thinking about it." "Jordan." "It's fine," Jordan said quickly. "I mean, it's your job, right? You've got a life there, I get it." "It's not fine," Ethan said. "And it's not that simple." "Isn't it?" Jordan's voice cracked slightly. "You came back, we got to know each other, and now you're leaving again." "Sounds pretty simple to me." "I don't want to leave," Ethan said desperately. "But this job, it's a huge opportunity. It could change everything." "For you," Jordan said. "Not for us." The words hit like a hammer. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Because Jordan was right. "I need to go," Jordan said, grabbing his backpack. "Jordan, wait!" But the boy was already walking away, his shoulders tense. Ethan stood alone in the empty construction site, the weight of his mistakes crushing him all over again. That evening, Maya showed up at his motel. She didn't knock. She just walked in when he opened the door, her eyes blazing. "What did you say to him?" she demanded. "Maya, he came home in tears, Ethan, tears. He hasn't cried in front of me since he was 12. So tell me what the hell you said to him." "I didn't mean to upset him," Ethan said. "My firm called. They want me back in Charlotte for a big project, and Jordan overheard me talking about it." Maya stared at him. "You're leaving." "I haven't decided." "You're thinking about it," she said. "That's the same thing." "It's not." "Yes, it is." Her voice broke. "You promised, Ethan. You said you weren't going anywhere." "I know what I said." "Then why are we having this conversation?" Ethan rubbed his face, exhausted. "Because it's not that simple, Maya. This is my career. My whole life is in Charlotte." "Your son is here," Maya said, her voice shaking. "Your family is here. Doesn't that matter?" "Of course it matters." "Then prove it." She stepped closer, her eyes fierce. "Prove that we're more important than some job. Prove that you've actually changed." "I have changed," Ethan said, "but I can't just throw away my entire career. I've worked for years to get where I am." "And where is that, Ethan?" Maya asked quietly. Alone in a motel room, trying to decide if your son is worth staying for. The words cut deep. Ethan turned away, unable to meet her eyes. I thought you were different now, Maya said, her voice breaking. I thought you'd finally figured out what mattered. But you're the same person you were 12 years ago. You're still choosing work over us. That's not fair, isn't it? She wiped her eyes. You told Jordan you'd be here. You told me you wouldn't hurt him. And now you're doing exactly what he was afraid of. I didn't say I was leaving, but you're considering it, Maya said, and that's enough to break his heart. She walked to the door, then paused. I won't stop you if you decide to go, she said quietly, but I won't let you back in either. Not again. Jordan deserves better than a father who shows up and disappears whenever it's convenient. Maya? Goodbye, Ethan. The door closed behind her. Ethan stood in the silence, his chest aching. He'd spent 12 years running from his mistakes, and now, just when he'd started to fix them, he was about to make the same ones all over again. Ethan didn't sleep. He spent the night pacing his motel room, Maya's words echoing in his head. You're still choosing work over us, was he? He thought about the hospital project, the prestige, the money, the career advancement. Then he thought about Jordan's face at the basketball game, Maya's smile across the dinner table, the quiet moments when the three of them felt like a family. By dawn, he knew what he had to do. He called his boss. I'm not taking the job, Ethan said. There was a long pause. You're making a mistake, Walker. Maybe, Ethan said, but it's mine to make. If you turn this down, there won't be another chance. I understand. Another pause. Then, we'll have to discuss your position with the firm when you get back. I figured. The call ended. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his phone. He felt oddly light, free, terrified, but right. He grabbed his keys and drove to Maya's house. The sun was just rising, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. He knocked on the door, his heart pounding. Maya answered, still in her pajamas, her eyes red-rimmed. I called my boss, Ethan said before she could speak. I turned down the job. She blinked. What? I'm staying. I don't know what that means for my career. Maybe they'll fire me. Maybe I'll have to start over, but I don't care. I'm not leaving you and Jordan, not again. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. Ethan, I know I don't deserve another chance, he said. I know I've screwed up more times than I can count, but I love my son, Maya, and He stopped, the words catching in his throat. I still love you. I never stopped. Tears streamed down her face. You can't just say that and expect everything to be okay. I know. I'm not expecting anything. I'm just asking you to let me try. Let me prove that I mean it this time. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. Come in, she said quietly. Ethan followed her into the kitchen. Jordan sat at the table eating cereal. When he saw Ethan, he froze. I'm not leaving, Ethan said. I turned down the job. I'm staying here. Jordan set down his spoon. For real? For real. The boy's eyes welled up. He stood quickly and crossed the room, wrapping his arms around Ethan in a tight hug. Ethan held his son and felt something inside him break open. Relief, gratitude, love. I'm sorry, Ethan whispered. I'm so sorry I made you doubt me. It's okay, Jordan said, his voice muffled against Ethan's shoulder. Just don't do it again. I won't. When they pulled apart, Jordan wiped his eyes and laughed shakily. Man, this is intense for 7 in the morning. Maya smiled through her tears. Go get ready for school. You're going to be late. Okay. Jordan glanced between them, then grabbed his backpack and headed upstairs. When they were alone, Maya turned to Ethan. I don't know what happens next, she said. Neither do I, Ethan admitted. But I want to figure it out. With you. She nodded slowly. Okay, but we take it slow. One day at a time. One day at a time, Ethan echoed. She stepped closer and rested her hand on his chest, over his heart. Don't make me regret this. I won't, he promised. And for the first time in 12 years, Ethan believed he could actually keep that promise. The days that followed were different, lighter. Ethan felt like he could finally breathe without the weight of guilt pressing down on his chest. He threw himself into his work on the community center, pouring all his energy into making it something the town could be proud of. He met with contractors, revised plans, and spent long hours at the site. But now when Jordan texted him or Maya called, he put down his tools and answered. Every single time. His firm in Charlotte wasn't happy. They'd reassigned him to smaller projects and made it clear his refusal had consequences. But Ethan didn't care. He'd spent years climbing a ladder that led nowhere. Now he was building something real. One afternoon, Maya invited him to her art studio at the high school. She was preparing for a student exhibition, and the room buzzed with creative energy. Teenagers painted canvases, sculpted clay, and debated color theory while music played softly in the background. "This is amazing," Ethan said, watching Maya move between students, offering gentle guidance and encouragement. "It's my favorite part of the day," she said, smiling. "These kids are so talented. They just need someone to believe in them." "Sounds familiar," Ethan said quietly. She glanced at him, understanding flickering in her eyes. "Come on, I want to show you something." She led him to the back corner of the studio, where a large canvas hung on the wall. It was Jordan's work, a sprawling mural of a bridge. One side of the bridge was crumbling and broken, the stones falling into dark water. The other side was whole and strong, stretching toward a bright horizon. "He painted this last month," Maya said softly, "before you came back." Ethan stared at the painting, his throat tight. "It's about us." "Yeah, the broken side. That's me. What I did to you and him." Maya nodded. "But the other side is hope. Jordan told me he painted it because he wanted to believe things could be repaired, even when they seemed impossible." Ethan reached out and touched the edge of the canvas. "He's more forgiving than I deserve." "He learned that from me," Maya said, "but you're earning it now, that matters." They stood together in silence, the sounds of the studio fading into the background. Ethan felt Maya's hand slip into his, and he squeezed it gently. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For giving me another chance, for raising an incredible son, for being you." Maya leaned her head against his shoulder. "Don't make me cry in front of my students." He smiled. "Wouldn't dream of it." That weekend, Ethan took Jordan to the marina to look at boats. Jordan's school project, building a small wooden boat, was almost finished, and Ethan wanted to see real ones up close for inspiration. They walked along the docks, salt air filling their lungs, seagulls crying overhead. Jordan peppered Ethan with questions about hull design and buoyancy, and Ethan answered them, impressed by how quickly the boy absorbed information. "You're really good at this stuff," Ethan said. "Have you thought about studying naval architecture?" "Maybe," Jordan said. "I like the idea of designing things that move, like boats or cars. You'd be great at it." They stopped at a small sailboat bobbing gently in its slip. An older man was polishing the deck, and he nodded at them. "Beautiful boat," Ethan said. "Thanks," the man said. "Built her myself about 20 years ago. Still runs like a dream." Jordan's eyes widened. "You built this?" "Sure did. Took me 2 years, but it was worth it." "That's so cool." The man chuckled. "You interested in boats, son?" "I'm building one for a school project. Nothing this big, though." "Every great boat starts small," the man said. "You keep at it. Maybe one day you'll have your own." As they walked away, Jordan was buzzing with excitement. "Did you hear that? He built that whole thing himself." "You could do that, too," Ethan said. "If you wanted." Jordan looked at him, something vulnerable in his eyes. "Would you help me?" Ethan's chest tightened. "Of course I would. I mean, like, a real one. Not just a school project, something we could actually take out on the water. You want to build a boat together?" "Yeah." Jordan kicked at a loose board on the dock. "I know it's dumb, it would take forever, and you're probably too busy." "It's not dumb," Ethan interrupted. "And I'm not too busy. Let's do it." Jordan looked up, his face breaking into a wide grin. "Seriously?" "Seriously. We'll start after your school project is done." "That's awesome." Jordan pulled out his phone. "I'm texting Mom." As Jordan typed furiously, Ethan looked out at the water. A year ago, he'd been sitting in his Charlotte apartment, alone and miserable. Now he was planning to build a boat with his son. Life was strange, beautiful, terrifying, but finally, it felt right. That evening, Maya invited Ethan to stay for dinner again. It was becoming a routine. Ethan showing up 3 or 4 times a week, sharing meals, helping with dishes, staying late to talk after Jordan went to bed. Tonight, Maya made chicken stir-fry with rice, and they ate on the back porch as the sun set over the trees. "Jordan told me about the boat," Maya said, smiling. "He's excited," Ethan said. "So are you, I can tell." "Yeah," Ethan admitted. "I am. It'll be good for us. A project we can work on together." "Just don't let him convince you to make it too big," Maya teased. "I know how you architects get. Next thing I know, you'll be designing a yacht." Ethan laughed. "I promise." Small and manageable, they fell into comfortable silence, watching fireflies blink in the growing darkness. Maya sipped her iced tea, and Ethan found himself studying her profile, the curve of her jaw, the way her hair fell across her shoulder. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Sure." Do you ever think about us, about what we had? Maya set down her glass and met his eyes. All the time. Yeah, of course. You were my first love, Ethan. You don't just forget that. I never forgot either, he said quietly. Even when I tried. She looked away, her expression complicated. We were so young. I thought we could conquer anything, but life doesn't work that way. I know. I wasn't ready for you, or for Jordan. I was too selfish, too scared. And now? Maya asked. Now I'm still scared, Ethan admitted, but for different reasons. I'm scared of losing you again, scared of messing this up, scared that I'm not enough. Maya reached across the table and took his hand. You're enough, Ethan. You're not perfect, but you're trying, that's what matters. I want to be better. For you. For Jordan. Then be better, she said simply. Keep showing up. Keep choosing us. That's all we need. Ethan squeezed her hand, emotion swelling in his chest. I love you, Maya. I know it's too soon to say that again. I know I don't have the right, Ethan. But I do. I love you. I never stopped. She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes glistening. Then she said, I love you too. I hate that I do, but I can't help it. You hate it? Because it's scary, she said. Loving you means trusting you, and trust is hard when someone's already broken it once. I know, Ethan said, but I'll spend every day earning it back, I promise. Maya stood and walked around the table. She cupped his face in her hands and kissed him softly. It was gentle and tentative, but it felt like coming home. When they pulled apart, she rested her forehead against his. One day at a time, she whispered. One day at a time, he agreed. The next few weeks passed in a blur of warmth and laughter. Ethan became a fixture in their lives. He attended Jordan's basketball games and art shows. He helped Maya set up for her student exhibitions. He fixed the leaky faucet in the kitchen and repainted the fence out front. But underneath the happiness, tension was building. Ethan's phone rang constantly. His firm in Charlotte kept calling, pushing him to return for meetings, trying to pull him back into the fold. He ignored most of the calls, but they wore on him, reminded him of what he'd given up. One night, after Jordan went to bed, Maya found him sitting on the porch, staring at his phone. What's wrong? She asked. My firm called again, Ethan said. They want me back for a presentation. Just a few days. Maya's expression tightened. And? I told them no, but they're not happy. They're talking about reassignment, maybe termination. Would that be the worst thing? Ethan looked at her, surprised. It's my career, Maya. I know, but is it the career you want? Or is it just the career you fell into? He didn't have an answer. Maya sat beside him and took his hand. I'm not trying to control you, Ethan. I just want you to be honest with yourself. Are you staying here because you want to, or because you think you have to? I want to, he said immediately. Being here with you and Jordan, it's the happiest I've been in years. Then let go of the rest, she said gently. Stop holding on to something that's pulling you away from what you really want. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I've spent my whole life building that career. If I walk away now, what do I have? You have us, Maya said. Isn't that enough? Ethan wanted to say yes. He wanted to believe that love and family were all he needed. But the doubt lingered, gnawing at him. Maya saw it in his eyes. She stood, her expression sad. You need to figure out what you really want, Ethan, because I can't do this if you're always looking over your shoulder. She went inside, leaving him alone with his thoughts. The breaking point came unexpectedly. Ethan's boss called on a Friday afternoon, his voice sharp. Walker, we need you here. Monday morning, non-negotiable. I can't. Yes, you can. This is your last chance, Ethan. You either show up or you're done with this firm. The line went dead. Ethan sat in his truck at the construction site, his hands shaking. He thought about everything he'd built in Charlotte, the reputation, the connections, the years of work. And then he thought about Jordan's laugh, Maya's smile, the quiet evenings on the porch. But the fear was louder. What if he gave up everything and it wasn't enough? What if he failed as a father? What if Maya realized he wasn't worth the risk? He made a decision. That night, he showed up at Maya's house. Jordan was at a friend's house, so it was just the two of them. I have to go back to Charlotte, Ethan said, just for a few days to settle things with my firm. Maya's face went pale. No, it's not what you think. I'm going to quit. I'm going to make it official and come back. You said that last time. I know, but no, Ethan. Her voice broke. You're leaving, that's all that matters. I'll be back in 3 days. 4 at the most. You don't get it, do you? Tears streamed down her face. It's not about the time. It's about the choice. You're choosing them over us again. That's not fair. It's completely fair. she shouted. "You said you'd stay, you promised. And now you're walking out that door just like you did 12 years ago. I'm coming back." "How do I know that?" Maya demanded. "How do I know you won't get up there and realize your old life is easier, that we're too much work?" "Because I love you," Ethan said desperately. "I love Jordan. I love this life." "Then prove it," Maya said, her voice shaking. "Stay. Don't get on that plane. Don't go back. Just stay." Ethan's chest ached. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to choose her without hesitation, but the fear was paralyzing. "I have to go," he said quietly. "I'm sorry." Maya stepped back, her face crumpling. "Then go, but don't come back, Ethan. I mean it. If you leave now, we're done." "Maya, get out." He stood there for a moment, torn. Then he turned and walked out the door. As he drove away, he saw her standing in the window, her silhouette framed by the warm light of the house. He told himself he was doing the right thing, but it felt like the biggest mistake of his life. Ethan drove through the night, his mind racing. By the time he reached Charlotte, the sun was rising, painting the city in shades of gold and grey. He went straight to his apartment, a sterile, modern space that felt cold and empty. He'd lived here for years, but it had never felt like home. On Monday morning, he went to the firm. His boss greeted him with a tight smile. "Glad you came to your senses, Walker." Ethan sat through the meeting, listening to plans for new projects and expansion. Everyone congratulated him on getting back on track, but all he could think about was Jordan's face when he'd told him about the boat, Maya's kiss on the porch, the way her hand felt in his. He thought about the life he'd walked away from, and he realized Maya was right. He'd been chasing validation his whole life, trying to prove something to people who didn't matter, building a career that looked impressive on paper but left him hollow inside. What was the point of success if he was alone? What was the point of any of it without love? In the middle of the meeting, Ethan stood up. "I quit," he said. His boss blinked. "What?" "I quit. I'm done. I don't want this anymore." "Walker, sit down. We can talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," Ethan said firmly. "I've spent 12 years working for you, building projects I didn't care about, missing the things that actually mattered, and I'm done. You're making a huge mistake." "No," Ethan said. "I'm fixing one." He walked out of the office, his heart pounding. He packed his apartment in record time, shoving clothes and essentials into boxes. He didn't care about the furniture or the expensive gadgets. None of it mattered. By that afternoon, he was on the road, driving back to Moorhead City, back to the people he loved, back home. It was raining when Ethan pulled up to Maya's house. Heavy, relentless rain that pounded against the windshield and turned the streets into rivers. He sat in the truck for a moment, gathering his courage. Then he grabbed the small box from the passenger seat and ran to the front door. Maya answered, her eyes red and swollen. When she saw him, her expression hardened. "I told you not to come back." "I know," Ethan said, rain dripping down his face. "But I had to. I had to tell you that I quit. I'm done with Charlotte. I'm done with that life." "Ethan, I'm staying here. I'm starting over. I don't know what I'm going to do for work, but I'll figure it out, because none of it matters without you and Jordan." Maya's lip trembled. "You keep saying that, but how do I know you mean it?" "Because I'm here," Ethan said. "In the rain, unemployed, terrified, but I'm here, and I'm not leaving." She stared at him, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. "I don't want success if it means losing you," Ethan said. "I don't want a big career or a fancy title. I just want to be the man you needed 12 years ago, the man Jordan deserves. I want to build boats with my son and paint fences and sit on the porch with you every night. That's all I want." Maya's shoulders shook. She covered her face with her hands and sobbed. Ethan stepped closer, his voice breaking. "I love you, Maya Brooks, and I will spend every single day proving it, if you'll let me." She looked up at him, her guard finally crumbling. "You're an idiot." "I know. You hurt me. I know. If you do it again—" "I won't," Ethan promised. "I swear on everything I have. I won't." Maya stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. They stood in the rain, holding each other, and Ethan felt something inside him finally settle. "I love you too," Maya whispered, "even though you drive me crazy." "I'll make it up to you," Ethan said. "Every day, for the rest of my life." She pulled back and looked at him, her eyes searching his. Then she kissed him, fierce and desperate and full of hope. When they broke apart, Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out the small box. "What's that?" Maya asked. He opened it to reveal a simple silver key. "I bought a house, the one we used to talk about, the little cottage by the beach." Maya's eyes widened. "You didn't." "I did." It needs work, but I thought maybe we could fix it up together. You and me and Jordan. Make it ours." She stared at the key, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan." "You don't have to answer now," he said quickly. "I know it's fast, I know we need time, but I wanted you to know I'm serious. I'm all in." Maya took the key, her hands shaking. Then she smiled through her tears. "You're lucky I love you." "I'm the luckiest man alive," Ethan said. They stood on the porch, the rain falling around them, and for the first time in 12 years, Ethan felt complete. He was home. The rain stopped just before dawn, leaving the world clean and fresh. Ethan woke on Maya's couch, a blanket draped over him that he didn't remember her bringing. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and he could smell coffee brewing in the kitchen. He sat up, his back stiff, and found Maya standing at the counter, already dressed. She looked over her shoulder when she heard him move. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning." He stood and walked over, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Did you sleep?" "A little." She poured him a cup of coffee. "Jordan doesn't know you're back yet. He stayed at my sister's last night. How is he?" Maya's expression grew somber. "Confused, hurt. He didn't understand why you left." Ethan's chest tightened with guilt. "I need to talk to him." "I know. But give him a minute, okay? He needs to process." "Okay." They sat at the kitchen table, drinking their coffee in comfortable silence. Outside, birds sang in the trees, and the morning sun painted everything gold. "I meant what I said last night," Ethan said. "About the house, about staying, about all of it." Maya looked at him, her expression guarded but hopeful. "I want to believe you, Ethan. I really do. But words are easy. It's the follow-through that's hard." "I know, so let me show you." She took a sip of her coffee, considering. "The house, can I see it? Anytime you want." "Today?" "Today," Ethan agreed. The cottage sat on a quiet street 3 blocks from the beach. It was small and weathered, with peeling paint and an overgrown yard, but it had good bones. Wide windows, a wraparound porch, and a view of the ocean from the 2nd floor. Maya stood on the front walk, staring at the house. Her hand covered her mouth. "This is it," she whispered. "This is the one we used to drive by." "Yeah," Ethan said. "It went on the market 2 weeks ago. I put in an offer the day after I turned down the Charlotte job." "You were that sure? About this?" "Yes. About us, I was terrified, but I knew if I didn't take the leap, I'd regret it forever." Maya walked up the porch steps, her fingers trailing along the railing. "It needs work." "A lot of work," Ethan admitted. "New paint. The roof probably needs replacing. The kitchen is stuck in 1987, but it's solid, and it's ours if you want it." She turned to face him, tears in her eyes. "Show me inside." They walked through the empty rooms together. The hardwood floors were scuffed but beautiful. The fireplace just needed cleaning. The backyard had an old oak tree perfect for a swing. In the master bedroom, Maya stood at the window, looking out at the ocean. "I used to dream about this," she said quietly. "Back when we were young, I'd imagine us living in a house like this, raising Jordan here, growing old together. We can still have that," Ethan said. "It's not too late." She turned, her expression vulnerable. "What if it doesn't work? What if we try and it falls apart?" "Then at least we tried," Ethan said. "But I don't think it will. I think we're stronger now. We've both grown up. We know what we want. And what do you want?" "You," he said simply. "Jordan, this life, that's all I want." Maya crossed the room and wrapped her arms around him. They stood there in the empty bedroom, holding each other, and Ethan felt peace settle over him like a blanket. "Okay," Maya whispered. "Let's do it. Let's fix this place up. Let's try." Ethan kissed the top of her head. "Thank you." "But we're taking it slow," she warned. "I'm not moving in tomorrow. We're dating, rebuilding, taking our time. Whatever you need. And you have to tell Jordan everything. No more running, no more secrets." "I will," Ethan promised. "Today." That afternoon, Maya called Jordan and asked him to come home. When he arrived, Ethan was sitting on the front porch, nervous energy thrumming through his veins. Jordan climbed out of his uncle's car and walked slowly up the path. When he saw Ethan, he stopped. "You came back," Jordan said, his voice flat. "I came back." "Why?" Ethan stood and faced his son. "Because I realized I was making the same mistake I made 12 years ago. I was letting fear control me. I was choosing something safe over something real." "So you quit?" "Yeah, I quit my job. I'm not going back to Charlotte." Jordan crossed his arms. "What if you change your mind?" "I won't." "How do I know that?" "Because I bought a house," Ethan said. 3 blocks from here. I'm staying, Jordan, for good. And I know you don't have any reason to trust me. I know I've given you every reason not to. but I'm asking you to give me one more chance. Let me prove I mean it." Jordan stared at him for a long moment, then he said, "I heard you and Mom talking last night, through the window." "You did?" "Yeah. You said you wanted to build boats with me, fix up a house, be a family." "I meant every word." Jordan's jaw tightened. "I wanted to believe you the first time when you came back. I wanted to think you'd changed, but then you left, and it felt exactly like what Mom always said, that you weren't ready, that you'd leave again when things got hard." The words stung, but Ethan didn't flinch. "You're right. I wasn't ready, and I'm sorry I made you doubt me, but I'm ready now, Jordan. I swear I am." "How do I know?" "Because I'm here," Ethan said, "and I'm not leaving. You can test me. You can push me away. You can make this as hard as you want, but I'm still going to be here. Every single day." Jordan's eyes filled with tears. He looked down, his shoulders shaking. "I don't want to get hurt again." "I know," Ethan said gently, "and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you don't. But I need you to meet me halfway. I need you to let me in." Jordan wiped his eyes roughly. "I don't know if I can." "That's okay. We'll take it one day at a time." They stood in silence, the weight of 12 years pressing down on both of them. Then Jordan took a shaky breath and nodded. "Okay," he said, "one day at a time." Ethan stepped forward and pulled his son into a hug. Jordan resisted for a moment, then melted into it, his hands clutching Ethan's shirt. "I'm sorry," Ethan whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Just don't leave again," Jordan said, his voice muffled. "Please. I won't. I promise." When they pulled apart, Maya was standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. She smiled and nodded at Ethan, and he felt something shift. A door opening, a bridge mending. They were going to be okay. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. Ethan started working with a local architecture firm that specialized in sustainable coastal design. The pay was less, but the work was meaningful, and he could be home every evening. He and Jordan began building the boat in Maya's garage. They spent hours measuring and cutting and sanding, working side by side in comfortable silence or easy conversation. Jordan opened up slowly, sharing stories about school and his friends, and his dreams for the future. Maya joined them sometimes, sitting on a stool and sketching while they worked. Other times, she brought them lemonade and cookies, teasing them about the sawdust that covered everything. "You two are making a mess," she'd say, but she was always smiling. One Saturday, Ethan took Jordan to the cottage. They spent the day ripping out old carpet and tearing down water-damaged drywall. Jordan worked hard, his face serious with concentration. "This place is going to be awesome when it's done," Jordan said, surveying the gutted living room. "You think so?" "Yeah. It's got good vibes, like it's waiting to be a home." Ethan smiled. "That's exactly what it is." They worked until the sun set, then sat on the porch steps drinking water and watching the sky turn pink and orange. "Can I ask you something?" Jordan said. "Always. Do you think you and Mom will get married again?" Ethan's heart skipped. "I don't know. Would you want that?" Jordan shrugged. "I think so. I mean, you guys seem happy, and it'd be nice to have you around all the time, like a real family." "We're already a real family," Ethan said. "Marriage doesn't change that." "But it'd make it official, right?" "Yeah," Ethan agreed. "It would." Jordan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "If you ask her, I think she'll say yes." "You think?" "Yeah. She looks at you the way she used to in the old pictures, like you're her favorite person." Ethan's throat tightened. "She's mine too." "Then ask her," Jordan said simply. "Don't wait. Life's too short." The student art exhibition was held on a warm evening in early November. The high school gym was transformed into a gallery, with colorful paintings and sculptures displayed throughout. Parents and students wandered through the space, admiring the work. Maya stood near the entrance, greeting guests and beaming with pride. She wore a flowy blue dress and her hair was pulled back with a clip. She looked radiant. Ethan found her in the crowd and kissed her cheek. "You did an amazing job." "The kids did the work," she said modestly. "I just helped them see their potential." "You're incredible," he said. "You know that?" She smiled and squeezed his hand. They walked through the exhibition together, stopping to admire different pieces. Jordan's mural, The Bridge, was displayed prominently, and a small crowd had gathered around it. "It's beautiful," an older woman said to Jordan. "What inspired it?" Jordan glanced at Ethan and Maya. "My family," he said. "It's about how broken things can be fixed if you're willing to try." The woman smiled. "That's lovely." After the exhibition, they went to dinner at a small restaurant on the waterfront. The three of them sat outside, watching boats drift by in the harbor. "This has been a good day," Maya said, her hand resting on Ethan's. The best, Ethan agreed. Jordan excused himself to use the bathroom, and Ethan turned to Maya. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. Will you come to the house tomorrow? There's something I want to show you." "What is it?" "A surprise." Maya raised an eyebrow. "You know I hate surprises." "You'll like this one," Ethan promised. "Trust me." She studied him for a moment, then smiled. "Okay, I'll be there." The next day, Maya arrived at the cottage to find it transformed. The living room was painted a warm cream color. New hardwood floors gleamed in the sunlight. The fireplace had been cleaned, and a fire crackled inside. Furniture, simple but beautiful, filled the space. "Ethan," she breathed, "when did you do this?" "I've been working on it for weeks," he said. "Jordan helped. We wanted it to be ready." "Ready for what?" Ethan took her hand and led her through the house. The kitchen had been updated with white cabinets and butcher block counters. The bedrooms were freshly painted. The backyard had been cleared and a new garden planted. In the master bedroom, Maya stood at the window, tears streaming down her face. "It's perfect," she whispered. "It's ours," Ethan said. "If you want it." She turned to face him. "Ethan." He dropped to one knee. Maya's hands flew to her mouth. "Maya Brooks," Ethan said, his voice shaking. 12 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I walked away from you and our son because I was scared and selfish. I spent over a decade regretting it, and then I got a second chance. A chance I didn't deserve, but that you gave me anyway." He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it. Inside was a simple gold band with a single diamond. "I love you," Ethan said. "I love Jordan. I love the life we're building together, and I want to spend every day proving that I'm the man you both deserve. Will you marry me?" Maya was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. "Yes," she said. "Yes, yes, yes." Ethan slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms. They kissed, deep and full of promise, and Ethan felt like he could finally breathe. "I love you," Maya whispered against his lips. "I love you so much." "I love you too." They heard footsteps on the stairs, and Jordan appeared in the doorway. "Did she say yes?" Maya laughed through her tears. "You knew?" "Of course I knew. He asked my permission last week." "And what did you say?" Maya asked. Jordan grinned. "I said it was about time." The three of them stood together in the bedroom, laughing and crying and holding each other. Outside, the ocean waves rolled in, steady and eternal, a rhythm that promised healing and hope. 1 year later, the morning sun streamed through the windows of the cottage, filling the rooms with golden light. Ethan woke to the smell of coffee and pancakes. He stretched and smiled, the weight of contentment settling over him like a warm blanket. In the kitchen, Maya stood at the stove, humming softly. She wore one of his t-shirts and pajama shorts, her hair a wild halo around her face. "Morning, beautiful," Ethan said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Morning." She leaned back against him. "Jordan's packing. His flight leaves in 3 hours." Ethan's chest tightened. "I can't believe he's leaving." "He's going to college, not war," Maya teased, but her voice was thick with emotion. They'd spent the summer finishing the boat, a small sailboat they'd named Second Chance. They'd taken it out on the water a dozen times, laughing and learning and making memories. Now Jordan was heading to North Carolina State to study industrial design. "He's going to do amazing things," Ethan said. "I know," Maya said, "but I'm allowed to be sad." "Me too." Jordan came downstairs, dragging a duffel bag. "I think I have everything." "Did you pack your—" "Yes, Mom," Jordan interrupted, grinning. "I packed everything. I'm 18, not 8. Maya wiped her eyes. "I know, I'm just being a mom," Jordan finished. He crossed the room and hugged her. "I love you." "I love you too, baby." Jordan turned to Ethan and held out his hand, but Ethan pulled him into a hug instead. "I'm proud of you," Ethan said. "You know that, right?" "Yeah," Jordan said. "I know. Call us when you get there." "I will." They drove Jordan to the airport together, the car filled with a bittersweet mix of excitement and sadness. At the terminal, they hugged him one last time, then watched as he disappeared through security. Maya cried on the drive home, and Ethan held her hand, his own eyes damp. But when they pulled up to the cottage, Maya smiled through her tears. "He's going to be okay," she said. "Yeah," Ethan agreed. "He is." They walked inside, hand in hand, and sat on the porch swing. The ocean stretched out before them, vast and endless. "What do we do now?" Maya asked. "Whatever we want," Ethan said. "We've got the rest of our lives to figure it out." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I like the sound of that." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the waves roll in. Ethan thought about the journey that had brought them here, the mistakes, the forgiveness, the slow rebuilding of trust. He thought about the years he'd lost and the ones he'd been given back. And he thought about the life they were still creating day by day, moment by moment. "Maya," he said softly. "Yeah, thank you. For what? For giving me a second chance. For believing I could change. For loving me even when I didn't deserve it." Maya lifted her head and looked at him, her eyes shining. "You earned it, Ethan. Every single day, you earned it. I'll keep earning it," he promised. "For the rest of my life." She kissed him softly. "I know you will." They sat on the porch as the sun climbed higher, warming their faces. The cottage, their home, stood solid behind them. The ocean whispered its eternal song. And somewhere, miles away, their son was starting his own adventure. Ethan took a deep breath and let it out slowly. He'd spent so many years chasing things that didn't matter. Success, validation, escape from his own mistakes. But now he had everything he needed. He had love, he had family, he had home, and he'd never let it go again. Maya squeezed his hand. "What are you thinking about?" "How lucky I am," Ethan said. "How grateful." "Me too," she said softly. They sat together as the morning unfolded, two people who'd found their way back to each other after years of being lost. The past couldn't be changed, the years couldn't be reclaimed, but the future stretched out before them, full of possibility and promise, and they would face it together, one day at a time. The end.